Oh, whoa! Am I live? I was just having a boogie. What was I boogieing to? I was boogieing to things in my brain. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gaz Williams Show. And nice to see some people in the chat room already. That's really cool. So thank you so much for joining me. I stream live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. UK time. Sort of conceived, I suppose, as an after party of sorts to Sonic Talk, the long-running Sonic State podcast, which I've been part of since 2010, and has been a brilliant thing. So big thanks to Nick for letting me be on the show today, on the Sonic Show. I was able to kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to be looking at tonight. So now my chat is all the way over here, so I apologise. I'm going to have to lean over. Okay, Sloon, Mr. Spoon. Hey, they rhyme. Ryan Sanders. Wagyu, Tracker Jack. Great. Friends are in the house. We are good. David Griffith. Hello from Prestatyn. Wow, Prestatyn. That's where I'm from. Well, I'm from Freeth. There is a Freeth in Prestatyn, but Freeth Beach, or by Prestatyn. I'm not from there, but I'm from a little village called Freeth, which is was in the village of Clwyd. The county of Clwyd is now the county of Flintshire. So little Freeth. Man with beard, hello. Okay, so let's look at what we got in front of us, because I've got some dilemmas, and sorry, I'm probably a bit roomy at the moment because I'm a little bit away from the mic, but I think once we get into the things, we'll be good. Right, let me get this up. Okay, so here is my modular rig, my live rig that I've been calling. It's based in a Damaru case here, which is a really great, sturdy, portable Eurorack case. Highly recommend. Made in Bristol, actually made in the basement of Elevator Sound. Really, really good. Highly recommend it. I've done tons of gigs and all sorts of stuff with this, and it's been brilliant. So if you are thinking of doing modular kind of stuff live, then the Damaru cases, well, it's certainly been working out for me. And look, the Polyend Synth and the Oxi One. So, right, the dilemma. Woohoo! So for the past few years, I've been really focusing on modular. Now, I know many of you are aware of that because I've been chronicling it on my channel here. But when I've been playing live with Steve Davis, it's been very much modular based. And then I've started working with this drummer called Greg White in our duo called Quasimodal. And it's really exciting to me, Quasimodal. And we've had a lot of sessions now. We started in February, and we've made about 120 pieces of music so far. Now, the vast majority of them were pre-Oxi One, and the Oxi One is a really powerful sequencer that Ryan Sanders there in the chat room, is all your fault, Ryan, because Ryan was the one who really encouraged me to take a deep look at the Oxi One, and then the two of us have been on this kind of deep dive over the past few months, where the Oxi One truly is the most incredible piece of equipment. It's just a sequencer, no sounds in this thing. It's just but it's a very clever, well, I say just a sequencer. It's a very, very clever sequencer, and it does lots and lots of cool things. Oh, Wagyu just got an Oxi One. Okay. And those things, so the module, you can't really see it here particularly because it's nestled in amongst a lot of the cables, but there's a module here called the Pipe, made by Oxi Instruments, and the Pipe is a breakout module. It doesn't need power from the case, and it connects to the Oxi One via a single cable, and it's an HDMI cable, curiously, but that means everything can be plumbed in, and then when I just connect this, I only have to connect two cables, One is for MIDI. This this purple cable here is for MIDI, and then the HDMI cable, which is for all of the modular, the CV and gate, and that makes it really neat and quick. So tomorrow, for instance, I've got a session then with Quasimodal, with Greg. We're going to do a Quasimodal session, and some of you will have seen the videos that I've been posting on my channel of some of the Quasimodal stuff, and yeah, going to be the same kind of thing tomorrow in the same little studio space that we use in Bristol, and I'm going to video it. And what I'm going to hopefully do is tonight I'm going to look at a few things and some ideas, and then I'm going to put a video up from the session, hopefully that encapsulates some of those ideas. So that could be quite an interesting thing, and I'd really love to get some feedback on this, because it's quite an interesting development for me within my musical adventures. I am, as most of you all know, I am a bass player, and I've been a professional bass player for many years. So my role in musical performance generally would be bass. I'd sometimes do vocals, a little bit of synths as well, but But this role now in Quasimodal, Greg doing the drums, and then I do modular stuff, and the modular stuff that I do is a combination of things. I do actually do quite a bit of percussion stuff, electronic percussion, which really melds lovely with what Greg does, but also melodic bass lines, chords, and I'm trying to compose things on the fly and fully improvised. And I say fully improvised. What we do in a session is I'll just come up with something, like a basic thing, and I'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes just coming up with an idea. We'll play along with the idea. When we feel we're comfortable with the idea, then we sort of press go on the record, start from, fade it all out, press go, bring in the idea, and then just riff and develop the idea and see where it goes. And that's been very much the big part of what we've been doing, whereby it really is kind of created in the moment. But herein is a little kind of issue then. It's like we're now preparing to play live, and in doing so, we want to make sure that the set that we do is varied, and there's lots of tonal changes, tempo changes, dynamic changes, and the like. So that's not so easy on modular, because you build a patch, spend a while building a patch, and then to be able to just to change those sounds. I mean, you can manipulate the tones of things, but to change the sounds. Greg was asking, very innocent things to ask, like, hey, can we just go to a kind of chorus section? And it's and prior to the Oxi, when you're just using all kinds of random gates, and I had my gates separate from my CVs, which are controlling pitch. So any rhythmical stuff and pitch stuff, they were coming from different places. So it was, it's really fun for making this unusual music that's built out of these kind of processes, but to apply any kind of regular traditional approaches to that is actually really, really difficult. So talking with Ryan, realizing that, and was initially thinking about getting the torso, with the torso, was it the T? No, I can't remember, the T1 maybe, which is a really cool, similar kind of thing to the Oxi. But there was a few things I wasn't so keen on. But then the Oxi, as soon as I started to realize what it was, especially with this pipe module, knowing that I could close my Damaru case, and I wouldn't have to unpatch things, take my Damaru case to the session, open the case, and then just plug a single cable from here in. Well, I say two, the MIDI cable, more about the MIDI in a moment, but certainly for all the CV and gate action, just all being on the single cable was just a little bit too tempting. And then more and more of the depth of this thing has been revealing itself. Now, we'll look at this over the course of the evening, and the elephant in the room is the Polyend Synth. And this is you know, people, including Ryan, you know, it's just, I'm going, oh, I'm really dilemmaed about this. I'm really dilemmaed about it. He's going, what are you dilemmaed about? I go, well, I've been pursuing such a modular based approach to stuff that this thing comes along and it's decidedly not modular in this traditional sense. So I feel like, is it a compromise to sort of bring something like that in? Well, you could argue the same of the Oxi, really, and that there isn't any rules. This is all self-imposed stuff, which I absolutely understand that it is. But also, I've been on such a particular journey, I feel like I don't want to traitor my earlier self. I do recognize that this is a bit daft, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I feel this Polyend Synth does certain things that I've been trying to do through modular in quite a complex way. For instance, just doing key changes and that kind of thing, to sort of coordinate that across a modular rig is really tricky. I've been using Civilization from Yuhi, one of my favorite modules, and flicking, and using the post quantize offset functionality, which you get into with a long press into a menu, and then changing the transposing all of the tracks, all of the CV channels, I should say, and then saving that as a different preset. So then I could step through a preset at a particular time, cue in a preset, and then I could get like a kind of key change. And yeah, doable, but a lot of faff. Whereas things like this, it just arguably makes certain things a little too easy. I'm sure many of you are aware, but if you're not, one thing about the Polyend Synth that it does is, you can't really tell here, the lights are quite bright, but you've got essentially three different synthesizers in one, and you could set one of these synthesizers up to play chords, and you could set the other two up to follow. So when you change chords, all of the other things follow in a very musical way. And it sounds brilliant. Perhaps I should do something just with that, just to demonstrate. No, I'm not going to. I will in the course of this evening in some form. But just going to check in with the chat room. It's all the way over there, the chat room. So I apologize. I'm a little bit, just because of the way I had to set this up, I'm a little bit far away. Yeah. The internal battery Wagu's mentioning on the Oxi One, it really is pretty awesome. You know, I do and have on numerous occasions used it in bed with my phone as acting as everything else. AUM, hosting, yeah. Let's have a look. Ryan is saying the visual feedback gives us a little more confidence in live situations, meaning thinking knows what's going on because all the lights displaying the different tracks. And yeah, okay, so the point Ryan say there, there is a kind of visual language that these devices, well, there is quite a lot of visual information that's coming from them. Look, this one's gone into its screensaver mode now. And again, the colors are probably not going to come out that well on here, I'm afraid. But of your four main, like, super tracks, if we want to call them that, they've all got a different kind of color scheme to them. And then, in time, you start to recognize that. Similarly, with the Polyend Play, you got the blue, the yellow, and the purple synths. Blue, yellow, purple. You got buttons here. You press the button for the blue. All the controls are for the blue synth. Yellow, all the controls for the yellow synth. Purple. It's pretty cool, and it's quite easy to get your head around. With the Polyend Synth, these are endless encoders, so and they're touch sensitive as well. So you can touch them, and it'll show you what the value of that particular thing is. Really cool. This is a bit of a masterclass in design, actually. Very good. And it sounds good too. but it does sound quite clean. There is a cleanness to it, which is appealing, but it's also quite contrasting some of the dirtier things that I've got going on in here. Wagyu's talking about the build quality on the Oxi One, and it really is. I mean, it's made out of metal or aluminium, I'm guessing, but certainly quite sturdy, and it does feel very good. Impressive, actually, very good. Polyend, maybe, you know, it feels pretty good, but it's not quite on the same league, really, in terms of the chassis. But I can't criticise the Polyend. I think the build quality is fine. And in the short weeks that I've had the Polyend Synth, something is really starting to become apparent to me, in that I think it does represent excellent value for money, because you've got all the different types of synth engines, and of course you've got the three of them. Yeah, I can't think of anything else really that does quite what this does. So yeah, big thumbs up, Polyend. But again, now you can't well, maybe I could just move this just for the moment. I got this board. I've been showing my friends this board. I've had it for a while, and I'm using it with the Oxi, and then like the play fader, which I am going to be bringing. I got to figure out a way of incorporating the play fader back into this setup, but having the play fader to the side, this in the middle. But when I put the Polyend Synth next to the Oxi, it is exactly the same size. I mean, it's like, it's as though it's all made for it. Yeah. So, but I mean, what this would actually give me, that I don't currently have in here, is like a polyphonic aftertouch playing surface. You can use the Oxi as a sort of keyboard, which is good for sort of putting notes in or putting arpeggiators in and stuff. But to play it as a key, the pads are pretty small. They're, again, perfect for programming. There's not a problem at all. But to kind of play it in a sort of, in a keyboard way, yeah, it's quite compromised. The pads on the Polyend Synth, though, by comparison, it look pretty much like four. You know, you can fit 4 of the Oxi pads to one on the Polyend Synth. Any plan on using the Polyend Synth to control the modular with a MIDI to CV converter? Absolutely not. Absolutely no plan to do that. And I tell you what, I'm going to talk about the MIDI as well, because I've set this up how I think I would like to use it. And interestingly enough, no, the Oxi One does not in any way talk to the Polyend Synth in this setup. And the reason for that is that the whole clocking is from my Pam's new workout, which is here. I've got the Pamela's Pro workout here, but my Pamela's new workout is the master clock for this system. Now it's all a bit hidden amongst all these cables here, but I can just about make out the screen. And I set tempo, and just in here, again, you can't quite see, but I can get to it easy with my finger, is the start and stop button. And I've got the expander here, which has got a MIDI out, and that MIDI out is indeed feeding the Polyend Synth. So the only MIDI the Polyend Synth is getting is clock. That's the only thing it's getting. And it's getting transport, like a start and stop message as well. And that is that's the way I like to use it. And the reason for that is because I've pretty much maxed out a workflow on the Oxi for the modular, and to then allocate extra tracks for the Polyend Synth. It might be something I might do, but right now my thinking is that I'm going to be controlling the modular, building things up, and then just doing fairy dust and things like that with the Polyend Synth initially, you know, because in this rig I've got, well, I should explain what I've got in this rig, because I've got 2 analog voices, 2 analog synths. I've got the bass line from Erica Synths, which is just so flipping awesome. This changed a lot when I put this in this rig. And I put it in kind of thinking, yeah, it's a bit of a one-trick pony. It's a bit like a 303 in a module. The more I've been using it, I don't kind of think it is. I think it's quite different. There are similarities, and it does get squelchy and acidy, but it is a really fabulous module. So that's really handling bass duties. And then next door to it is the venerable A1116 from Doepfer, which is a 10 HP analog synth voice. Which, if I'm absolutely honest, I'm not sure if that's going to stay in here. Partly because I find it's a little vanilla. And I'm not sure. We'll see. But it's good. I do like it. But then next to it, perhaps I should have done another close-up shot, but you just have to deal with this. I've got two Erica two 3HP ones. Now they also, it's essentially like a 9 HP voice split over 3 modules. We've got the Erica Synth's voice, which is like a kind of complete synth voice in itself, but that outputs into the VCF1, which is based on the Polyvox filter, which has got a toggle from low pass to band pass, and then that feeds into the Erica DSP, which is a really small 3 HP synth, and then that effect, and that's got delays and reverbs and the like. So that gives me my 3 main voices within here. My bassline voice, I'm using the Doepfer kind of mostly for, I don't know, some melodic stuff. I'm tending to use this little 3 HP Erica thing as the main kind of lead voice. But then anyway, next door to that is the Oxi Coral. Now this is a module that's reasonably new to me, but I got this after I got the Oxi One. I was so impressed with this that it made me take another look at this again. And the Oxi Coral is essentially another thing based on Platts from Mutable Instruments, which I know can put some people off, but it's not just that. If you take that as a starting point, but it's like an 8-voice polyphonic module that a lot of the engines are based on Platts. They've introduced a few more engines. I'm not sure if they are, but certainly its origins are within Platts, and then it becomes quite interesting because the 8 voices that it's got, it can actually be 8 entirely separate voices, and I've got something on here that I can set up, which is like an 8-channel sequencer set to each voice on here. Now, I mentioned about MIDI. Well, MIDI is indeed driving so this is great because I'm not using up CV and gate channels to drive this. MIDI's doing that, as is the next door neighbor, which is my beloved Rample module, which is a 4-channel sample playback module, which thankfully has a MIDI through on it in mini jack. So my MIDI cable, this cable here, actually one that Dan DPW gave me, comes in to the MIDI in and then MIDI through into the Oxi Coral. So what the Rample then gives me is a bunch of samples, and then that goes into a Happy Nerding FX Aid, which I very nearly sold to Ryan and I'm glad I didn't because it's actually really good. So that's the kind of melodic-y kind of aspects and bass and, you know, tune stuff. And then the top row is pretty much given up. This is mixing, this part here, but then all of this part are drums. So we've got the QD drum from Vlad, my good friend Vlad, VPME, and that's got the QEX expander. Modulation duties and various other aspects are being controlled by the Bastel Neo Trinity for this row. And then there's the Zolaric repetitor from Noise Engineering, which makes really cool which makes really cool sort of rhythms that are based on African music theory in the most, which is quite cool. Because that complements really nicely grids from Mutable Instruments, and grids, and you completely can't see them here because they're completely shrouded in cables. I've got 3 2HP analog drum voices. I've got a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat. So there's the 3, and that corresponds to the 3 channels of grids. So I can do a combination of grids and a Zolaric repetitor, and I get lots of kind of interesting rhythms up as well. So there's a few other things I should mention. I've got a Pamela's Pro workout here, which is doing modulation duties for this bottom row. The Civilization, which I'm feeding in different modulations in, which is then going to each of the voices. And on the end here, I've got a Bella Gliss, which, as I just can touch this, you can see that moving. It instantly records things. So that's one of my well, actually 2, because I've got 2 outputs here. So 2 of my modulation sources there. That feeds into Civilization, and then I can distribute that via the matrix mixer of Civilization around and about the place, and I can choose, I can attenuate and invert and do all sorts of clever stuff with that there. So yeah, so that's it. And then along the top row, the 1U row, if you can just about make it out, I've got like a 4-channel attenuverter there. I'm using them, actually at the moment, it's just sending offset signals into the PAMS Pro workout. I've got a Milky Way from Endorphins, which is acting as an effect for the QD drum. And then I've got like a little I've just got a few utility modules, followed by an IntelliGel effect here at the end, which is a master effect. Everything flows through this. It does reverb and delay and chorus, but I just love it. I just often use just little bits of effects across the whole mix. And that's it. And it's really cool. It's self-contained. Some people say, oh, it's more of a groove box than a modular kind of rig. And I kind of get that. But at the same time, this has been like 2 years of refinements and stuff, and lots of gigs now with this. And now I've got quite a cool workflow that I can do with this. So really, what's the point of bringing in another thing here? Well, when Quasimodal is going to start doing gigs, then this is going to enable me to help with transitioning between tracks. I'll be able to maybe focus on this a little bit whilst I can maybe get some stuff held on here. There's a shift button here, and the basic sort of principle of it is if you hold shift and hit a pad, and then let go, then it's latched on, and that works across all 3 voices. Right, wow, a lot of waffle. Some of you will have seen me talk about this over the years now. I've been using this because it has gone through various evolutions, and if any of you do go on Modular Grid, then there's lots of different iterations of this rig. It's and this is the kind of rig where every single bit of HP matters. Like I really like this stereo mixer from DPW, but it's 9 HP. 9. So thankfully I've got a few, I've got the 3 HP. Most modules are in kind of even numbers. So my 3 HP module works well with a 9 HP module, just to kind of get me back into the even numbers. Now, you can see this dangling on here. This is going to be one of the first things I do. I'm going to show you something that I've set up on the Oxi, which, I don't know, is a cool thing. I guess the Oxi has got different functions, but one of the problems with using analog modules, of course, is having to make sure that they're in tune, certainly in tune with each other. And this Korg oscilloscope, the NTS, the NTS2, happens to have a pretty cool tuner built in. So with the tuner, obviously I can set up stuff, but I was going to show you what I've done though, because I think it's quite fun. It's also little bit testament to what's kind of cool with the Oxi. Okay, so here's a fairly new project. All I've done is create a few basic patterns over here. This is the kind of load layout of the Oxi, and what I've done is on this column over here is I've actually created some basic patterns. Now, if I was to go into these patterns, what they are is they're all the note of C, which are held for the duration. So basically I've made a tuning pattern. So when I push play and I get things going on here, I can just basically bring up everything as a sort of C, as the note of C. Except that one's not playing. Why is that? I know, let's hit that there. There we go. Thrilling, eh? But yeah, so basically that's what those patterns are, just really basic, the note of C held. And then individual ones I can just check the tuning. Too much. There we go, spot on. Then the next one. Yeah, that's already good. I've already, I think I've already tuned it now. Yeah, everything is good. So that is yeah, just nicked one side of the stereo to plug into this. If you're wondering why it was on one side. So now things are kind of in tune. I say kind of in tune. There is a peculiar thing. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, Jack said right channel only. That's because I was just using the one channel to feed into the oscilloscope just for the tuning, and then now we should be in stereo. Okay. Wagyu is saying that it would be, yeah, it's very similar. It has got a lot of similar to the Mordax data, but I have to say I've got a Mordax data here, but that lives in my big rig at the back. And actually, a lot of the time, you just want to be able to just, just chuck it into, whatever it is, not have to plumb it all in. I mean, yeah, again, as I say, with this rig, HP is critical, really. And I up all the modules here, like the big QD drum here and its expander is taking up a lot of space, but oh, it's so good. So, and the grids, grids is quite big, and you can get clones of grids which are a lot smaller, and I'm thinking, oh, I could gain a little bit more HP and pack a bit more in. But to be honest, there's enough stuff going on in here that it gives me plenty to kind of keep me occupied. Keen-eyed viewers may notice the lack of cable portals on this particular setup. My plan is to rewire it all back into the cable portals. It's just I pulled everything out to redo things, and again, Ryan's influence on me really is, with the cable portals, they're really good for when you want to lock stuff down. And then, the cable portals just provide, like, I put them around and they sort of provide like a routing sort of space, a routing sort of direction for things. But yeah, they, they will be back. I have not abandoned them. Okay, right. So there's been absolutely zero music here other than some drones. So now let's have a look then. Right. Okay, I know we've talked about the Oxi One before, but I will just briefly go over it again, just some of the things, because it's so different to everything else that, like this concept now, you've got 4 tracks, and those 4 tracks are configurable to what kind of track they are. And you could basically set them up to be just simply 4 monophonic tracks, and that's If you were to just use it that way, it would still be superb because of all of the extra functionality. But you can change that. You can actually have it as like polyphonic tracks. You can also have it as a multi-track, and that's what I'm going to be using a bit of tonight as well. So the multi-track is particularly interesting because it means that one track, you can call these like 4 master tracks, but one track could be 8 tracks, and those tracks have got quite a lot of autonomy from each other as well. In the multi-track mode, you can have a piano roll for each of the 4. You can give them, they can all run within a multi-track. They can all run at different rates and for different step lengths and stuff, you know, parameter locking values on each of the steps. It's really pretty deep, this thing. Now, as I say, it's got CV and MIDI coming out. So what you do is you can configure then the tracks however you see fit. And I've done a whole bunch of unique kind of setups on this. That I say unique because this rig is so unique. This has been able to I've been able to configure it specifically for this. Now, let's have a look at some of the things then. I typically use track 1 as a chord track, and that track feeds the Oxi. So the Oxi, I've got potentially an 8-voice polyphonic synthesizer. So let's start there. Let's put follow on now. So we can see, let's get this sounding a bit nicer. And we can see, you can make very long, this is 128 steps, this chord sequence is. And I can press any of these chords here with a step chord button. I can put inversions, different kind of articulations of the chord on, like so. So you can make really nice chord patterns. And each of these chords as well, as is the amazing joy of MIDI compared to CV and gate, you know, I can press and hold it, and I've got multiple things I can do. I can set the velocity of that chord, the octave. I can set whether it's tied. I can also set whether it's strums, which would, like, you know, a little bit like the key step, Arturia key step 37, and I can put whether it'll have ratchets on, and I can offset it as well, and also, yeah, and you've got trig conditions as well, just like you'd expect on an electron sequencer. So you can apply all of that kind of thinking to the chord track as well. Now, my next track is my bass line, and let's just change my patterns now. So with the Oxi, patterns move, you know, like here, if I change the pattern, it doesn't change the pattern for all the tracks. It only you have to manually select what track you want, what pattern you want to play. There is an arranger, and with the arranger then you can make it all move however you wish, but it is quite let's just take that out for a minute. I think there still might be a few little tweaks that need to be doing in the whole save menu of this. I think sometimes I hit a few things which I think there might be a few little bugs here and there, but I mean, it generally works pretty well. But the concept is a bit strange, because the concept of the pattern with the Oxi. Normally you'd think a pattern is just a collection of notes, their velocity values, maybe their gate lengths, and if you're lucky, a few other things as well. But the patterns in the Oxi can hold all the information, all the routing, like all the CV routing, for instance. So you can move from one pattern on the same track to another pattern, which could be a different type of sequencer. You could go from, you know, like a stochastic sequencer to a monophonic sequencer on a per pattern basis. And all of the mappings, all the CV mappings, all the MIDI mappings can be completely different. Now, this is a big and mad and maybe infuriating sometimes, but really phenomenal feature of the Oxi. Because that means then that you can bring in all different kinds of disciplines, you know, all sorts of like randomization stuff, all sorts of things into the Oxi, and it doesn't have to, you know, you're not committed to it on that project, just on the pattern. So, and we'll do some of this to show you this, because I've never experienced anything like it on any of the music gear that I've used. Not quite like this. Now, when you start to get your head around this, how much stuff can be in a pattern, you can save a pattern then as a template. So that template then will be, in that template, it could be notes, it could be routings, it could be randomization details, it could be modulation sources, which are all mapped to different things. And you can load in that template then into any of the 4 tracks. So you have to kind of think of the 4 tracks as being like separate, almost like separate machines in a way. Hence, with the programming, the pattern changing, for instance, you know, you'd have to do it on a you know, change them manually on a per track basis. But the creative and I would say modular kind of workflow of it, boom. We will get there. Apologies for the chat room live. I'm being very, it's my screen's right over there, so I can't actually see. I can come over and read it. Right. So this pattern thing then, let's get that little sequence going again. So we've got that little chord sequence going. Now if we go to track 2, we can see I've just got a 16-step pattern going here with the bass line. Remember, the chord sequence is 128 steps. So if we bring in the bass now, so when the chords do change, you can hear that the bass line moves in a musical manner. Now, this Erica bass line, it's got an accent input in there. So what I could do then in the mapping page on here, I could say, right, channel 4, output 4. Well, here you can hear the sound change now, because that was just sending gates through to the accent input. But well, I don't know whether to explain all of this, but the general rule of it is, this is the CV gate mapping page. 8 CVs, 8 gates. So we can see the yellow here. That, oh, track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. So track 2 is going, this is CV, and then this is going to the Erica bass line. Gate 1 is on track 2, going to the Erica. Gate output 4 is also going to the Erica, but these 4 here are different kinds of gate uses, and these are 4 different types of CV use. the first row is for volt per octave. The second is for sequencer velocity. Velocity. The third one, very interesting, is trigger envelopes. So it can generate envelopes that you can send out. And then the fourth one is a modulation. Output. Okay. Let's put that back there. Here on the gates, we've got triggers, gate triggers, which you can just change between V trig or S trig. We've got a clock, so we could, if we wanted to, we could use this like a Pamela's new workout and have different clock outputs out of all of these. But here we've got an accent output. So this is what we want for this channel now, and we can say at what threshold, velocity threshold, will it generate an accent. So go back to my baseline now, and I get my velocity channel up here, and we can see, you can hear, right? We got an accent on the one there. Let's put a few more accents in to show you. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Now, of course, this window that we're looking at now, we're looking at the velocities. So if we were to look at velocities, this is the chord track now we're looking at, and we can see that we could actually put in dynamic kind of, we could put movements in. Loud chord. There's a loud one coming up now. Yeah. Quiet one. I think it's a very neat way of doing things. Let's bring that down a little bit. And I can step through the different pages. So running 128 steps, and I've got 4, and then if I press the same one again, it goes blue. Probably won't be able to see that very well, maybe, but that means when it's blue, it's like steps 65 steps, etc., up to your 128 steps. Nice. Okay. This Erica thing is beautiful. This bass line. So, let's bring in another channel now. This is the Dopefer now. Now the Dopefer is working on... Oh, Wagyu, thank you for the tip. Really appreciate that. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. This third track is set to be stochastic, which is a sort of like random generator, but we're kind of saying that the 5th, the 6th and the 7th steps of the chords will play, only those notes, with the 7th most likely to play, then the 6th and then the 5th. Depending on the height of the column will be, like if I wanted it just to play C's, like I say C's, root notes. I'll take these out. when you hear that changing, that's changing as the chords change. Let's put some more, let's get it back to, I quite like what it was doing before. And we can do things here with these columns. Oh, no wonder it didn't change. These buttons here. These columns, this is a pitch and this is rhythm. And basically, when they're all the way up, every single time round, it'll generate a new pattern based on what these values are set to. And then, if I particularly liked it, this will lock the pattern to be exactly the same each time. But because it's following the chords, it's always going to change relative to the chord. Now, at the moment the chord track is playing in major, so it's all very kind of cheesy and majory. Let's go minor. And let's go to D sharp minor. Let's put some effects on that. Let's put some delays on the Ryan's asking me to mute the chord track. This is cool. If you mute the chord track, then the other things So, Polyend Synth. So I can have different things going on here. So just to be able to reach up here then and to play, what I'd have to do is, well, oh yeah, I can set the lengths of everything, so I'll just make the bass line do that. Okay. So D sharp minor. So in the Polyend Synth then I can come in here. I'm just going to load in a scene at random. God knows, never used it before. Right, so I have no idea what this is going to do. But what I am going to do though is I'm going to go in here and then I'm going to change in the grid. I'm going to change the root. I'm going to change it to be D sharp. I'm going to set the chords then to be minor. So now theoretically, I could just start jamming on here. Let's change the chord. So make the chord pack. Let's just make this. I'll make them all notes for now. It's kind of nice, isn't it? Okay. Let's start bringing in some other elements. Pitch sounds weird on that. So if I wanted to do a key shift now, I'd have to do it with the two devices. Let's see if I can do this now. I'll go from a D sharp. That chord sequence to be find a little yeah, let's do that here. Right, let's just try and morph this now into something cool. Sorry, level's a bit off. Okay, now, for me, the thing that's kind of lacking in the sound so far then is I would like to bring some texture, and this is where sort of samples are really good for this. So I'm going to load in some like industrial samples. I'll talk about these samples in a moment, because this is a kind of cool feature, I think. So I'm just going to bring in this kind of sample noise. I'm going to fade everything out until we just go to the samples now. There we go. So these samples are industrial samples from a lot of factories which are long gone. I'm just doing a very basic, I'm just triggering samples off 2 of the channels. I could bring in some more actually. Let's put a few more. Like I've still got I got 4 channels of industrial sounds going on here. Now, the rample has got this kind of cool feature where you can send a MIDI CC value to change all of the tracks at the same time. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose modulation channel 6. I'll use channel 6, and I'm going to set its output to be, let's just do this, channel 6, CC destination. I'm going to set the CC destination to 50. Yeah, set it to 50 now. So what will happen now when I change this? I don't know if you'll be able to tell that much. Actually, let me do it with a more obvious CC value. I change it to, God, this is crazy noises. 52. I just got to set the. Oh, I got it on the wrong MIDI channel. One moment. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. So this is like a DJ filter. So like right up there, we've kind of high passed it out. When that blue line is in the middle of the Oxi screen, then that's like our neutral. And then as I go lower, it goes into low pass. Yeah, you got the gist of this. And this is doing this across all 4 tracks simultaneously. So then we could do a few of these kind of things, you know. Now, let's make this more fun. I'm going to create another modulation channel, and then this time I'm going to set this one to be let's just change one setting a moment. Nine, yeah, that's good. 7 mod. Oh, I'm just going to set one last thing. I've got to just make sure. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. God, there's a lot to remember on this thing. Here we go. Mod 3. I'm going to set this one now to change let me think. Actually, there's a freeze function here. Let's try that. CC53. I'm on the wrong one, sorry. Here we go. And this is freezing all 4 channels now. I could set this to go to any of the individual channels, by the way, but I just thought it'd be fun to do over the whole. So I've got my filter. Now look, when I change my filter thing, look, it's moving the offsets as well. But if you bring it down, if you bring them off, they kind of, you know. If I push it all the way up, it becomes like that. Bring it down. This is kind of cool, isn't it? Let's bring some of the other stuff back in now and let's see if we can make it. So remember, we're just looping just that small little section of our chord sequence. You can just dead easily change the speed. So that you can hear this chord sequence change, 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 half it, change, change. Half it again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Change. So you can do that. Right. Ryan's asking, can I set an internal LFO to do that? Yes, I can. So of course we've got LFOs at our disposal as well on the Oxi. So let's just get back to our sample channel here. Let's get messing with this again. Let's get some LFO on the go. So what I'll do is I'll use this 4th one here. And I'm going to route it, I'm going to set it to be in, I'll set the destination. It's a bit weird at the moment. I should put some movement. What I need to do is actually, let me just jump back to that now, to that mod thing. Let's get that, this is the, oh, and like I was just showing where we choosing the length, each one of these modulations can all be running at different speeds, so I can, so this, so you can see that modulation, right? If I go to the filter one, which is this one, you can see it's running at that speed. So let's just do like a, let's just, let's make this run slow now. Wow, nasty. triangle wave on the bass. I'm not totally convinced what I've done with the samples, but you can get the gist, what I'm trying to get at here. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Jack. So, when I'm playing with Greg then in Quasimodal, and you know, I've been mentioning about not using a click track, but sometimes I will use some rhythmical elements, which is helpful for him. But again, he can interpret what I'm doing however. Go back to that chord track and let's open up the chord track to be the chord track is going to go back to the full length chord track now, so we'll hear the things starting to change again. Bass line follow the full. to think about. See if this works. Yeah, got some crackle going on there. I need to right, hang on, let me just reset a moment. Yeah, so you can see I've got a lot going on with this without even touching on this, but ooh, you know, the upside down church bells. Yeah, I'm going to come back to those church bells. So it was those church bells. Right, hang on. Okay. Whew. So you can imagine now when you having, you know, what I'm trying to do with this thing is have this kind of morphable improvisation creativity sort of, you know, like a Fisher-Price activity center for adults. You know, it's sort of something to really work it, you know. And there's so much stuff going on. There's so much stuff going on to try and keep on top of it, and it gets quite overwhelming. What I typically do though with Greg is, because he's playing as well, I don't need to do as much, and I need to keep remembering that, you know, that actually it's okay just to step off the gas and just have just a few things going on. I'm sure you'll agree that this this Erica bass line, you know, is let's just get that on a go. This Erica bassline module is just so lovely. Let's get a bassline on the go. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's go back here. So now let's just take this bass line for a minute now, so we can see here this pattern. Now how could I, of course it's still following that chord sequence at the moment, so you can see those set notes will change based on what the chord is doing. So let's create a new pattern. Go to my pattern load page here. It's playing from pattern 1, and I'm going to hit pattern 2. So when it does that, we'll have silence. When it cues in, okay, so now we've got our silent bass line playing. And you know, I could do something as simple as this, just create a really short little 4-step pattern. And just do that, and every time it lands on a chord change, I might create a new chord pattern as well. Let's do that as well. Same process. So I'm going to go here and create there'll be an empty chord pattern now. So when this comes in, let's just go into our chord track here. No chords are currently here, so I'll do something like this. I'll have a chord there. Oops. Let's make this pattern. Yeah. So the chord track is playing at this speed at the moment. So actually, there's a good thing. If you slow the chord track down, you can see now every beat it's changing on there. So right, so if I just add a chord, and I'll bring a chord in so we can hear it. And I'll just do a really, really simple chord change for a moment. Now, it's nice that the bass line, it's nice that it's staying as that root there. The reason that's not changing is because the note that it's playing is still sort of harmonically kind of correct. It's working like a nice pedal tone. Let's put another bass. Have I just that's set to sequence to it? Yeah. There's not enough difference in the chord to make the bass change. Let's try a different chord there. Let's just see what happens now when it changes. Yeah, so it's that like lifted chord. You can hear that bass line changing. Now let's go back to this bass line again. Let's do some probabilities then. So I can press and hold this. If I hit shift again, I can come here and go trigger. So this second note, I'll put it as at a 50% chance of playing. This third note, oh no, sorry, the fourth note, I'll do one of those kind of probabilities where I'm going to say to it, I'm going to say it'll only play once every other bar. So you can start, this is very much the electron sort of step kind of probability, you know, they really are well, certainly in hardware, the pioneers of this kind of thing. Now, let's go to our velocity channel and let's give these, so there's no accents in there at all now. Probabilities and ratchets. Yes, we can make ratchets. We can put probabilities and ratchet probabilities as well. Put an accent on. If I change the bass to like a square wave, that accent is going to be a lot more noticeable. Try a ratchet then. The way I'd have to do that is I'd have to go into the random perform mode and then say retrig and then give it a chance. I don't know that I can set a random on a per step. I might be able to. At the moment, in this random perform, I've got a bunch of options. Velocity, so in this case it could be so whether it would accent or not. Let's try cranking that up actually. So we'll always get the accent that we've put in, but we'll get some other accents coming in as well by random. There. Octaves. So if I put like a 20% chance for it to play in a different octave. Might reduce that octave a little bit so it doesn't happen that often. And then you've got like a global for the track probability as well. So that's quite cool then, because these random the random perform thing is always running. So it's actually a cool way. If I want to just from a performance way, just go to that page and actually change the trigger amount. Like if I want to mute it, I could just turn it off. I've turned the trigger to 0%. I think it's the accent. He's still kind of getting through somehow. That's quite interesting. But is that per step, says Ted? This is like not per step. This is kind of almost like a plugin, if you will, like that's running across this particular track, but it is per track. And this, when you're in the multi-track mode, which I haven't really looked at much, that would be on a per track basis. Back to 100%. But that real basic bass line now is yeah, as Ryan is saying, you can put retrigs in on a per step basis, but I don't think I can assign that to be a random. It would happen every time if I programmed it. I guess one way around that would be to put probability on the step. So sometimes the step will fire, and sometimes the step will fire. If the step fires, it'll have the probability on. Okay, so we can see how we've taken a really simple little 4-step sequence, and it's following the chords, as we can hear. I should look at the LFOs as well, really. So let's go back to our chord track and let's set an LFO in. So I'm going to go to the LFO and I'm going to choose a destination for this LFO. So we've got 2 LFOs per track. Yeah. So I'm going to go external destination over MIDI. Yeah. And here's a nice thing. Because the choral is made by Oxi, you can put it in a mode where all the CCs have got names. So you're not just looking at just CC values, you're looking at actually what you're going to be changing on the Oxi. So in this case, I'll have the timbre change. So I'll just change that to timbre. Okay. Now when I set the amount now, so make it quite slow. Let's move the timbre on here. that if I take the bass down a little bit. Different wave shapes, square wave, sample and hold. Actually, sample and hold is probably a good idea. Let's try this now. Other options we've got on the LFO is we've got a retrig. So whether it sort of triggers from every time it gets a trig, it'll kind of start the LFO cycle from that. You can change the phase and you can offset it as well. So pretty cool, and you've got 2 of those LFOs per track as well. So okay, now I did notice as well, we could actually, let's set the LFO 2 to be pan. So we can have a nice little auto pan going on this now. Set to ramp at the moment, so it's nice. We've got a little bit of motion going on. That timbre I'm not totally convinced about. Let's go back to LFO. Maybe let's try another destination. We'll try the morph control instead. I'm going to make it nice. Let's make it slow, so make it last a bar. Yeah, so we've got some motion going on there, haven't we? Let's bring that bass back in now. Take the amount of these LFOs down a bit, they're a bit extreme. Okay, so let's look at this stochastic mode again, because this is really fun. So this is feeding the Dopefer, but any track can be anything, you know. So like we could have it, I could set any track to be any type. So but here now, let's bring in this Dopefer, and it's going to a delay, so I'll keep the delay on it. Okay, and just to demonstrate this stochastic mode, let's do it like this. I'll just set this to sort of being like a default thing. Okay, so if I put it here, you'll just get the root note of the chord. You should do. I thought that was going to change on the route, but maybe not. So all notes will play, but they will either be the first or the fourth. So all notes will play. All of the notes are set to being all exactly the same length. Now, maybe to make this a little bit more interesting, I could make some of the notes, this controls the note length. Randomizing every time it comes round. Let's take out that one. Let's make the notes. Now, if I bring these levels down, we'll start introducing rests in as well. Short notes up here. I'll take the delay out for a minute. And these aren't either or. These are... I'm saying that here it'll mean that all the notes will play short. Here all the notes will play at their set gate length, which we can change. I'll just show you that first as well. Global gate. And just set it to be in legato or super short. But we can override that then with this control here. So if I as this is playing along, don't expect it to hit. That's just showing you time. These are the settings of the note probabilities, yeah? But what is cool though is, if I press copy at any time, I can copy the buffer of that melody and I can paste it into a normal track. So you can move things back and forward between tracks too. And again, these columns here, at the end here, is generating a new pattern each time. But if I do this, it's playing the same pattern. Although it's playing the same pattern, it still moves to the chords. And then what I could do is I could introduce either pitch variances or time variances, rhythm variances. If they're all the way to the top, it'll be random every time. But like, let's say pitch wise, let's put it in the middle though. So the rhythm is going to be the same each time, but the note choices are going to have a degree of randomness. But it is destructive. Once the new notes have entered, then if I was to go back here, it would lock whatever state it was in at that point there, you see. It wouldn't go back to the time when we first locked it. So it's sort of like an evolving kind of thing. If I put them both at halfway, this little pattern, let's double it up. It's probably better slower. So, again, lock it. So yeah, so you kind of know that it's going to be doing the same thing. Let's bring that delay back in. key change there as well. Where do we go? F sharp. I should have a oh, stuff is going on. There we go. I'm going to probably finish streaming pretty soon, so I'd like to see if anyone's got any questions, double Q it please in the live chat. But also, if you're watching this not live, then pop any questions you want down in the comments. That'd be really cool. Consider liking this, and also consider subscribing if you don't already subscribe, if you want to see more of this kind of thing. But yeah, thanks Ted. Yeah, so it's just so look, so Wagyu saying Polyend Synth's working great for soloing trinkets on top of the modulator. Yeah, okay, all right, so what do you think then? Polyend, bringing the synth along, it's not really I mean, as I say, you can see there's plenty going on with the modular rig alone, but just having that extra level, those extra things. I mean, I do need to manually change the key. I could probably set it up with the Oxi maybe to do things like that, but I don't know. I might just, it's really quick to change the key on the Polyend synth, so you know, make me work a little bit, you know. Don't make things too easy. So okay, a couple of questions. Wagyu's asking, how flexible is the sound engine of the Coral? Love the pad sound. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm having a bit of a up and down time with the Coral. I think it's really good, and it connects to the Oxi One fantastically. Just the one cable. Hang on, let's go back here. That one cable. Oh, thanks, Emma. Hey. Yeah. So with like a single cable, we can have like 8 tracks and lots of modulations, LFOs, and all sorts of things going on. So it's really cool in that way. The Coral has got a bunch of different sound engines, some or most of which are derived from Mutable Instruments Platts, which I know is in lots of things, and I know people are starting to suffer from Platts fatigue. And there is like a familiarity to the sound. I've got a couple of Platts here, and I've got Platts in my micro freak, or aspects of Platts in my micro freak, and aspects of Platts in Platts as well in the Disting EX, you know. But you've got a lot of control what you can do with that anyway. And where it differs from Platts is that it does have its own filter and its own envelopes on top of what's in flat. Well, you don't have the Platts kind of low pass envelope and low pass gate triggered envelope sort of thing. Ugh, didn't say that very well. It expands on Platts. It uses Platts as like a foundation of the oscillators, but it's got built-in effects as well, reverb, and you can optionally switch out, which I have. I've swapped out the noise source for a built-in delay, and I've swapped out the chorus for a high pass, which I think a high pass with a poly pad type thing is kind of essential. I noticed there's another question here. I'm just going to go and have a little look. From Redwalks, so do you prepare all the synth lines before, or do you create new? Right, okay. Fabulous question, and one of which that I'm currently kind of struggling with. And why that is everything that we've done. I mean, and this is, I'm referring now to this act Quasimodal. everything that we've done has just been made up there and then, and I've not been bringing in pre-made ideas of any form. And I've got a bit of I'm struggling with whether to make things to speed up the process, especially for live. And like, the Oxi can have songs and projects and all that kind of stuff, so you could have a lot of stuff ready to go. And in fact, I'm going to save everything that I've done right now. Shift and save will be my quick. Okay, so that's all saved now. So I was saying that this is preparing for my session tomorrow. So some of what you've heard then tonight, some kind of version of it I'll do tomorrow, and I'll see what it's like about bringing in. I'll probably stay on after the show for a bit, just making a few more patterns up and stuff, and then I'm going to film the session tomorrow. So keep an eye on my channel for new Quasimodal videos then, because you'll see me using then the Polyend Synth. If anyone's watched any of the videos so far, you'll have seen me using the Oxi One and my Modular, and I'm trying not to be on the Oxi all the time. I'd rather the Oxi be doing its thing and I'm working the sounds more. That's kind of how I intend to use it, but the Oxi offers so much, and so you just end up spending a lot of time on the Oxi. I hope so. I'm gonna ask. I'd like to play there. I would really like to play there. So I'm gonna see if that is possible. But yes, thanks for asking that. Thanks, Philip, or Dilip Funbar, liking the jams. Jack, pattern density is a good feature for changing a static pattern over time. Is a great idea. Yeah, you've got this kind of random pattern thing that you can do, which I haven't done tonight. I did some of the random perform, but you've got the random generator as well, and then change the density. Yeah, that's a great idea. You can see that there is many things to think about, and especially in a gig, just making sure it all works is enough to be thinking about, let alone kind of actually doing all this stuff on the fly. But that's kind of what I want to do. I never want to take the easy option. I like living dangerously, and I like, as much as I don't really want to mess up, I like the fact that I can mess up. Something I bang on a lot about is I don't like backing tracks. I don't like a safety net. I like everything being risky. I think music needs that. I think, when you see a phenomenal orchestra play, for instance, it's only phenomenal because a lot of people are keeping it together under all sorts of circumstances, and it could easily go wrong, and it makes it real. It makes things, I think music needs to be kind of delicate, balancing act. It needs to be able to go wrong. Look, there's a channel, I'm gonna have a little whinge now. There's a channel called Wings of Pegasus. I know some of you know about, but where the guy Phil, who's the presenter on that channel, he takes recordings from concerts, and he will extract the vocals from that. He'll extract the vocals from other concerts sent in by fans, like on phones or whatever, or videos from YouTube from concerts. Strip away using AI to extract the vocals, but then looking on pitch software and seeing that the vocals match up, and people are miming left, right and center. Taylor Swift, on what's the biggest grossing tour in history now, he has proved in in a completely, well, as he calls it, objective data, he's kind of proved that she's miming. I mean, okay, she's Taylor Swift is a pop sort of thing, but at the same time, for me, that is everything I hate about the modern world, really. So in a way, a lot of my reticence to have any pre-made idea in is sort of is to I don't know, it's important. It's important. I want that experience that the audience is having and I'm having, or we're having, to be unique and to be there and to be precious, and it to be not this kind of perfect thing. Perfection is boring. Rough danger, things falling over, and well, hopefully not this rig falling over, but the music falling over, and then out of the ashes something exceptionally beautiful arises that just, and these special moments happen. I was really fortunate to play with Charlotte Church and the wonderful Pop Dungeon Band for a number of years. I mean, hopefully one day we'll do it again, but I'm not sure. But, Charlotte's really anti-backing track, and that band, the stuff we were doing, if we were using tracks to help us out, it would have made it a lot easier for us. But we had to work really hard to get around that, and it's so good when you do that. So I suppose in a way, this is a bit of context for what I'm dilemmaed about. It's important for me for music to be real and to be spontaneous and live, and this setup I've got in front of me, it is in many ways like spinning plates. You leave one thing go on a bit long, it gets quite tedious, but because you're concentrating on other things, if you listen back to a recording, you're going, and there's this dong 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 thing going on, why did I let that go on? It's crazy, but because your attention is being drawn to all these different parts, and it's really, to actually just step back. And therein, I think, is something that I need to learn to do more, is just, when I've got something going, is to step back a little bit. When I play with Steve's very much like that. He's very calm and very collected and makes changes in a quite subtle and evolving way, whereas I'm really busy. So I think I do need to kind of just step back, listen. I'll probably get a bit more perspective, so that dang, dang, dang thing, I'll notice it and go in there and tweak it. But yeah, just looking at them. Oh yeah, that's a good point about the Taylor Swift miming. The concert, they were expensive. And as Phil on Wings of Pegasus said, okay, you're paying to watch her dance. You're not paying to watch her sing, because she's miming. And I know that Dave Grohl called her out for it and got a lot of stick for it, but I don't know, maybe you do need to call this stuff out. It's just all too commonplace in the industry now. And it's often not just vocals. Sometimes entire tracks of bands, drum tracks, bass tracks and stuff are coming off backing track, with a band playing along but not coming out front of house. But anyway, that's me soapboxing. So, just to wrap up, I mimed my performance tonight. Well, it's kind of weird, isn't it? With electronic music and with sequences and this kind of stuff, it's kind of strange, I suppose. The line does get a little bit blurred, doesn't it? Because there's lots of people, loads of acts are out there using, say, Ableton Live with loads of pre-made stuff, doing real-time mixes. It's what Underworld do, and they do it so well. They'll never ever do the same thing twice. So every single performance is a unique sort of triggering of many, many elements. I've seen how they work, and it's incredible. They'll have thousands of components and build the mix live, and really skillfully. But crucially though, every performance is different, and the length of the performances will vary. The kind of moments where the big drops and everything come in all changes based on how they feel in the night and how it works, and therefore that gives it a real kind of live quality. But then I was watching the Prodigy at Reading on the TV coverage, and that seemed like it was very much, the arrangement was fixed and the tracks, there were clear tracks going on, but they were augmenting it with live drums, phenomenal visuals, and obviously, well, Maxim doing a great job just in the role that he did with Keith, the much missed Keith Flint. And I was kind of thinking, yeah, this, they're bringing such a lot into the show, and that kind of music, it's probably very difficult to do entirely live. So the line, it's a bit of a blurred line, really. But I think in the case of, like, say, Taylor Swift blatantly miming, and I think the evidence is pretty conclusive. Certainly what I've seen on, and I'm just going by the Wings of Pegasus thing here now. So, I urge you to check that out if this is of interest to you. But there's something, when it's deceptive, when it's kind of sort of pretending, and because you can get away with that sort of stuff, I don't know, just doesn't sit. He doesn't sit well with me at all. All right. So, right. Okay. Time. I've probably been on far too long. Thank you so much, everyone, for your company. Sorry I haven't been as present in the chat room. As I say, the screen is over there and I'm a little bit away from it, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to be having this session tomorrow, and then hopefully then there will be some videos from that session so you can kind of see how it's going. Just to give you some we've been building this project now since February, and with an intention to take it out live. I'm talking about Quasimodal here. And it's been really joyous. All the sessions have been wonderful and very productive. Yeah, we've got over 120 pieces of music recorded now from those sessions, of which, I think I've posted about 4 of them so far. So we got plenty of material, and we're going to kind of be, well, we had a session the other day, listening session, and we got a lot to kind of work through. So we will be making some, we are going to be doing some releases as well, and probably coincide that with some live performances. And when we go to play live, we're going to, well, theoretically, this is the plan, is that we're going to take the drums and our own drum mics and our own little mixer. It's like a rack mount mixer thing, a Midas MR18. Well, not rack, but like a block. And we're going to have pre-made scenes. And if we get really clever, well, this is what we're currently thinking about. Greg wants to be able to change his mix in certain ways on his acoustic drums, bringing in different effects and things. So he'd be then triggering. We're thinking of using. Let me just grab it. This may indeed change, but the thinking is using let Greg have a foot pedal. And then these would be different program, and these would send out program change to the mixer, and he'd have different drum scenes. So that would give him a chance to change what he's doing sound wise as well. I think we're still a bit of a way away from doing that, but that's the sort of thinking that we're thinking of doing. And when we set up on the stage, we'd set up, if there's another band playing, we would set up the drum kit separately from any other drum kit on the stage, facing each other, and like kind of present front of house with the drums as a stereo mix and the modular as a stereo mix, or 2 stereo mixes, and then they can just balance the level between us. But we create this sound. That's what we're kind of thinking. And then that would give us a certain sonic kind of things that we could do, which I think would be quite interesting. And here's the other thing. The way this rig that I've got in front of me has developed has gone in a very different direction than what I was doing earlier. Well, certainly with the Oxi, rather. if we take this current setup to be in one which is driven by the Oxi, I think what I also want to do is have a second setup. So so I would have this rig, and then I'm going to get another Damaru case and another stay stand. And on the second rig, like if anyone's seen any of the gig that me and Steve did in the Brecon Cathedral, I used 2 rigs on that gig. And then I would have this, which is like the Oxi rig. And then the other rig would be just like a much more pure modular playground, sort of much more experimental, much more, much more the modular kind of thing, really, with multiple modules making up single voices and stuff, whereas this is mostly complete, just a collection of complete voices. So this is the kind of future. This is the future, and we'll see where it goes, really. But yeah, thanks again for joining. I'm just gonna have a quick flick if there's any questions that I've missed. Okay, that's cool. Wagyu saw the Prodigy in the summer at the Greenfield Festival in Stuttgart. It was very scheduled, but Liam did improvise parts, and they were banging as always. Yeah, I think they strike the right balance, really. Yeah. Oh, Tom Curtin. Hi, Tom. Thanks, Mr. Spoon. Okay, well, I think I better go. Should I jam out, or should we just call it time now? I've gone on plenty long enough. Red Walks, that's a great question. He said, if you have the foot pedal already, can you set one switch as a tap tempo? That would complicate things, because that foot switch would go to his mixer, and to get then MIDI from him into here, and then he'd have to have some sort of clock. We've been looking into it. It's actually more difficult. I can do a tap tempo on here. I can't do a tap tempo on here, unfortunately. And this is I'm using the PAMs as the tempo master, and we tried a couple of weeks ago me setting it up so I could tap tempo along. Let's call that work. I'm going to call that work in progress. I'm not committing on that yet, but we did wonder about Greg setting the tempo, having some sort of means to do that. I looked for a module that could just have its tempo set from a tap, which there is one. Well, there's a few, but they didn't have external inputs in order to do the tap. So yeah, it's work in progress. I'm very open to those ideas. So yeah, the Oxi. Yeah, the Oxi is not the master clock. The PAMS is the master clock, and in part the reason for that is I'm trying to have as few cables having to plug in. At the moment, it's 2 cables. To make the Oxi the master clock, I would only be adding 1 more cable in. Well, possibly 2 if I wanted to put resets in, and I've built this system all around PAMS clocking and controlling everything, and it just seems to work. It's just the tap tempo dilemma. Wagyu, I did notice a suggestion in one of the comments. It'd be interesting if you could clock it from the kick drum instead of... Yeah, again, I'm interested and open. So yeah, stuff that we will investigate. Okay, I'll just finish off then with something radically different. So I'm just gonna spin the tempo. I'm gonna spin a few wheels. I'm gonna spin a few parameters, and I'm going to start with something sweet and dainty, and then it will surely descend into some nightmare ambience, as that just seems just to be the way of the world. Right. It's not that sweet. Whoops. Oh, no. Spoiled it all. Okay, big love. Thanks everyone. See you soon.